when we didn't have no shoes. How we made it downtown to the welfare office. Just me, just you. Took a long time trying to get what we got now, baby. Don't you go away and give it up to the world, man. I couldn't understand. Don't let the green grass fool you.
Don't let it fool you, baby. Don't let it.
Oh no, baby, don't let it change your mind.
And it may look sweeter.
It's gonna be hard trying to start our lives all over.
Yeah.
Hey, mama,
Going through what we
you
went
got the
through
kind of loving
that I need.
ah, yeah. And if you ever leave me down in the dumps without stopping to check my heart, ooh, baby, I don't think I'll live to see a brand new day. I wanna hear you do it to me. Say, don't let the green grass fool you. No, baby, don't let it change your mind. Oh, it might be greener.
It might be greener on the other side.
Oh, but that's the way.
But baby, this is where you belong.
Oh, life is hell and you speak like all mine as well. Oh, we're so let these fellas play a little bit.
Welcome to Gerard Sunday Morning Classics. As time goes by, so does music. And this week, we're focusing on Mr. Entertainer himself, Mr. Bojangles, Sammy Davis Jr.
Don't let the green grass fool you, baby. Don't you ever let it change your mind. Ooh, think of me, just think of me. When the world turns to
Mr.
show.
Felipe Wayne from the Spinners.
And right there, that's where you belong. You know, I got a neighbor in a couple days that, you know, that buddy who's got a Cadillac. And you know, I always drive a Nash. But baby, he can talk sweet, nothing's in your mirror. I got action, and girl, you know I got cash. I say, don't let the green grass fool you. Bubbling over inside me when I tell you, baby, don't let it change your mind. Oh, I sit here all day, just wasting time away, thinking about me and you. Just telling you, baby, that right here, that's where you belong. So come on, give it to me.
I like that part.
Change your mind.
Thank you for the likes. You're welcome. Okay, welcome to Sunday Morning Classics. As time goes by, so does music. And today, we're focusing on Mr. Entertainer himself. Mr. Bojangles himself. Only thing I can say, man, this is my favorite entertainer. I mean, I've been madly following and loving Sammy Davis from way back when. And by the time we get to the end of this, I'm gonna share my little close encounter with Mr. Entertainer himself. Okay, but right now, you know what time it is. It's time to run some of that bean footage. Now, there was come here. Let's get the family in here before I start. Hello, Duchess. Say hello. Say hi. Say hello, fan. Say hello, people. Say hello. Yeah. Oh, no, you're not ready to sing yet. Oh, what the camera? You say hello, Mia.
Good morning.
Okay, there you go. And what I was speaking on was that there are a lot of little treasures of videos about Sammy and his life, and some of the interview, like he talked about how he regretted smoking, which is ultimately, you know, what he died of was lung cancer, throat cancer. And, you know, there's just so much, so much. So I picked this one video about him, and it's about 20 minutes long. But I'm gonna do it in segments. I'm gonna try to do it in 4 segments, 5 minutes intervals. But the thing is about, if you listen and watch his life goes through the whole struggle of the black experience, you know, immigration, not immigration, segregation. I wonder why Freudian slip. I wonder why I said immigration. But anyway, you know, a lot of the things that he went through, you know how blacks turned their backs on him because, well, you know, I'll let his daughter say the rest of it. So with no further ado, roll that beam footage, Gerard. You got it. Okay, here we go.
There were death threats, there were bad words written on our car, they looked for bombs, we had armed guards, but there was a lot of love in the house, and I think that kind of triumphed over all that and made us feel sick. He was a goofball. I mean, he loved to tell stories, and he loved to tell jokes, and he loved to kind of...
This was, I don't think you missed, no, you didn't miss it. This is his daughter, Tracy, I think it is, who died in 2020. There's no header before the beginning of this video, so just want to let you know, you didn't miss nothing.
Entertain at home, you know, with close friends. So yeah, he was a really kind-hearted man. And
in his own words, Sammy Davis Jr. was the only black, Puerto Rican, one-eyed Jewish entertainer in the world.
Not Sammy Davis Jr. Oh, that's the black guy that turned Jewish. Oh, that's the guy with the one eye.
However, his daughter, Tracy Davis, who died in 2020, shared memories and details of his life in her book, Sammy Davis Jr., A Personal Journey with My Father. The book is based on conversations Davis had with her father as he battled throat cancer near the end of his life. He described his start in vaudeville at 3 years old, where he was billed as an adult midget. He didn't have the traditional family life, Tracy revealed. He was always working, and trying to become famous. She says that even after making it, he was scared that it could be taken away at any minute. When asked about how her father dealt with accusations of being a sellout, she revealed that he was heartbroken by the claims. He was hurt, but I don't think that that's anything new for black artists even today. When you get to a certain level, you kind of need to grow your circle, and I think for the black community at that time, they wanted to have a piece of Sammy Davis Jr., and they didn't really understand that he was giving as much as he could give. Somehow, it just didn't seem good enough. You know, to be called names by your own folks is really hurtful, because then, where do you go when times are tough? When your own community, a lot of people, don't think that you're a part of that community anymore, it's a little scary, she said. In any case, over 3 decades have passed since the untimely demise of Sammy Davis Jr. due to throat cancer, and in that time, his legacy has faced an unsettling fate. To many, he seems to have faded into obscurity, or relegated to the status of a bygone relic, a mere footnote from another era, dismissed as a diminutive figure, standing at 5'5", whose existence appears incongruous with the enduring struggle for civil rights among African Americans. Yet, beneath the veneer of forgotten history lies a compelling narrative that unravels the complexities of Hollywood's ability to marginalize an artist based on both race and convictions. So here is the tragic and controversial story, Sammy Davis Jr. For context, Sammy Davis Jr. was born on December 8, 1925 in Harlem. As somewhat of a premonition of his later life, he was born into a very talented family. Davis's father, Sammy Davis Sr., was an entertainer and stage performer, and his mother, Elvira Sanchez, was a stage performer and tap dancer. Both were said to have been vaudeville dancers. Since his parents worked quite a lot in the evening, as most entertainers do, he's said to have been brought up by his paternal grandmother. However, as most entertainers also do, his parents divorced when he was 3. His father didn't want to lose custody, so in what was likely a defining moment for Davis, Sammy Davis Sr. decided to take his son on tour with him and Will Maston. This would prove to be the beginning of an incredible career for Sammy Davis Jr. He quickly learned to dance from his father and his uncle, Will Maston, and very soon began to perform with the group, which began the Will Maston Trio. In this act, Davis was apparently billed as Silent Sam, the 44-year-old dancing midget. He continued to perform with the trio, all the while developing his entertainment skills. These skills truly came into use in
Okay, we're gonna pause that right there, because now I'm gonna play this first part of a video I want to put in, because they talk about him being booked as the world's smallest midget. And this is let's see what time this is. Okay, 17. This is the when he was with the Will Master Trio, and this is him performing. I'm sure a lot of you have seen this, but for those of you who haven't, it's a real treat to see him perform this at the age of 5 years old.
I am happy to announce that Rufus Jones has been elected the president. Where's that new president? Yeah, he is. Oh, come here, Fred. You got to say something to your constituency.
I'd be glad when you're there, I'd be glad when you're there, with you.
He's saying, I'll be glad when he's dead. Years old, man. Okay, that's Sammy at 5 years old with the Will Master Trio, and the name of the song is called, I'll Be Glad When He's Dead, something like that. Okay, let's see, put a little bit more of the footage in here.
A Jewish entertainer in the world.
Not Sammy Davis Jr. Well, that's the black guy that turned Jewish.
Racism outright because his father and uncle had both kept this from him under the guise of people. His parents divorced when he was 3. His father didn't want to lose custody, so in what was likely a defining moment for Davis, Sammy Davis Sr. decided to take his son on tour with him and Will Maston. This would prove to be the beginning of an incredible career for Sammy Davis Jr. He quickly learned to dance from his father and his uncle, Will Maston, and very soon began to perform with the group, which began the Will Maston Trio. In this act, Davis was apparently billed as Silent Sam, the 44-year-old dancing midget. He continued to perform with the trio, all the while developing his entertainment skills. These skills truly came into use in 1941 when the Will Maston Trio was asked to fill in as an opening act for Frank Sinatra at a gig in Detroit. This particular show would prove to be life-changing for Sammy Davis Jr., but not instantly. In fact, another life-changing event would occur first, World War II. In 1943, Sammy Davis Jr. was drafted into the Army. This particular event was not necessarily life-changing. What affected Davis most about his time in the military, which is our first unfortunate moment in this story, was his first true introduction to blatant racism. During his time in the trio, he had never witnessed this racism outright because his father and uncle had both kept this from him under the guise of people being jealous of their entertaining skills. However, Davis was placed into one of the Army's first racial integrated units in military history. This would obviously not be smooth sailing for a black man in the 1940s. However, Sammy Davis Jr. was not one to take this sort of thing lying down. Apparently, Davis faced racism so frequently that he was having actual brawls with white soldiers nearly every other day. He described one occasion where a white secretary came to ask him a question. A group of white soldiers noticed him speaking with her, and they decided to corner him soon afterwards in the enlisted club. They took him outside, and he fought them all. They overpowered him, stripped him, and painted him white, saying that he obviously wanted to be white if he wanted to talk to white women. Other moments include him having his nose broken numerous times, which gave it its permanent...
Isn't that cold-blooded? They took him out, took his clothes off, and painted him white. Said, because, hey, if you want to be with white girls that bad, you might Big white. That's cold-blooded, man. That's cold.
Flattened look. On another occasion, he was offered a beer laced with urine. Davis fought.
They were talking about his nose from being broke so much. That's why it has that flattened look. So that's what you just quit tailing of. But drinking urine.
Every chance he could against the racism he experienced.
Everybody knows it is. That ain't no big statement to make. Maybe it's shocking to hear it from someone that you just watched the night before on laughing.
Soon, he began.
Now you see, that's an interesting statement of what he made. You know, he said everybody knew racism exists. Everybody knew racism was there. He said, but the thing is that people might have found it kind of strange, you know, coming from someone who they just watched the night before on Roland Martin's Laughing, because, you know, that was always jolly, high, here come the judge, this type of thing. So the fact that he's talking racism, it kind of caught people like, wow, you know, really? This is not the time or place.
And to notice that no matter how many times he would fight, the racists would just keep coming. So he finally decided that there was another way that only he could fight back, through talent and showmanship. After his discharge from the Army, Sammy Davis Jr. reunited with the Will Maston Trio. However, he started pushing himself to do more than just dance. In addition to his amazing dancing, he began singing and doing impressions.
He went to the old soft shoe.
His impressions were legendary, and soon the trio gained enough notoriety to make their way into some of the most famous clubs in Las Vegas. The trio was...
I'm going to stop right here because, speaking of impressions, let me put this little clip in here of him doing just that. Showing off his impressions. Right here.
You are more than kind. I hope you don't mind if I do this. Actually, I need it in terms of the next song. I would like to do a saloon song for you, if I may.
You know, when his father first saw him do impression of all these white people, when he finished and went up the stage, his father told him, if you ever do that again, I will whoop your ass.
I borrowed that phrase from my dear friend and buddy, and the man who is responsible for this evening, Mr. Frank Sinatra. That's his phrase, and he is responsible for this evening. And this is not. I think somebody should say it. But I know of no other individual that could put on this type of show in the way he did. It was marvelous the way he just picked up a phone and said, "Be there."
You don't say no to Frank.
I immediately called Martin Luther King, and he gave me the okay, and I came.
I'm sure you're right. He checked for his people.
No, I really don't, because I go like usually. When somebody says, "Be there," I'm ready to march. Yeah, baby. Take no chances, boy. Yeah.
He was part of the black experience.
I go do benefits, I march with everybody.
Yeah.
I found myself marching with some cats with some pillowcases on their head one day. My conductor, George Rhodes, went like this in the sidelines. Psst, psst, psst. I think you marching with the wrong group here. I know you colored and Jewish, and this is ridiculous, baby. Oh, incidentally, let me say this now, and I make the joke about myself, so you know, and I admit this fully. It is true that I'm an American Negro who is, I have adopted Judaism as a faith. Everybody knows that, and all the comics make jokes about it. And I do it in self-defense. But I would also like to let you know something that you're not aware of. My mother is a Puerto Rican. My mother's maiden name was Elvira Sanchez. This is true, MS. And so that means I'm colored, Jewish, and Puerto Rican. When I move into a neighborhood, I wipe it out. I wipe Give me that wonderful song that I love so much, One for My Baby, will you? This song, One for My Baby and One for the Road, was written many years ago by Harold Allen and Johnny Mercer. It has been performed by the greatest performers
I
in the
love
world.
this guy.
But it was written for Mr. Fred Astaire. Now, I don't care what singers have sung it, and of course, my dear friend, the man who comes on in a minute or two, they can get him out of his room. It's his song, and he does it so marvelously, but I would like to show you what might happen if we were just to imagine Astaire doing it. Because Astaire being a hoofer, which is my first love,
Hoofer, that means
when he
tap
walks
dance.
down the street, just to see him walk down the street is worth the price of admission. It's 2:45. There's no one in the place except you and me. So set up Joe, got a little story you wanna know. Well, for that one move alone, such quelling, I tell you. But to see this man's kind of job, I got to thinking maybe it might be kind of fun to hear some other singers sing it. Starting out first, not in terms of ridicule or any other reason, but simply because of the fact that this man contributed something that no one else will ever be able to duplicate or to fill the gap that now that he's missing. Out of sheer and total respect, just a few bars of Mr. Nat King Cole.
Ooh, Nat. Come on, baby.
It's 2:45. There's no one in the place except you and me. I'm feeling so sad. Wish you'd make the music dreamy and sad. Mr. Billy Eckstein. Thank you.
Billy Eckstein.
I could tell you a lot, but you got to be true to your
You sound like Arthur Prysock.
So make it one for my baby and one more for Mr. Von Monroe. You got a routine. Mr. Tony Bennett. I'm feeling so sad. I wish you'd make the music dreamy and sad. Mel Torme. I could tell you alone, but you gotta be
Quiet.
true to your code. So make it one for my baby and one more for the running around, oh boy, I got a lot of things to say. Louis Armstrong. Somebody's gonna listen to me.
I can do it, right?
My good friend who was here earlier in the evening, Mr. Dean Martin. Which way is the audience, Polly?
Which way is the audience?
That's how it goes. Yo, I know you getting anxious too close. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, you didn't mind. Oh yeah.
This was the night cloud, high speed round.
Jerry Lewis.
It's a swelling cloud, so they can one more my baby.
And one more for the road. I'm talking about the Lord. Don't you love me, Lord? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving me the privilege to be in St. Louis for such a great cause. God bless you.
Hold that thought. Still one more impression. Here we go. Hello, darling. This is Lewis. Darling, it's so nice to have you back where you belong. Your Lawrence Ray, darling. I can tell, darling. You keep growing, you keep sharing. You didn't think I had it in me. Well, that was for you. That was my Louis Armstrong impersonation. All right, let's go back to a little bit more of the story on
There were death threats, there were bad words written
See if I can
on our
find
car,
it back
they
to
looked for
where-
bombs, we had armed guard.
Especially that they continued to perform for almost an hour. After this, Janice Page insisted
Okay.
performing. This was a common trend around the United States at the time, even in New York. On one occasion, Davis and a group of his friends went to see Frank Sinatra perform at the
Okay.
studio. However, he started pushing himself.
Okay. We'll start right here because he started pushing himself. Remember when he got out of the service? Well, let's pick it up there.
Do more than just dance. In addition to his amazing dancing, he began singing and doing impressions.
Yeah.
He went to the old soft shoe.
His impressions were legendary, and soon the trio gained enough notoriety to make their way into some of the most famous clubs in Las Vegas. The trio was actually being adored at this point, even by white audiences, while they were on stage. When they were off stage, they were treated just as badly as all other African Americans. Apparently, they weren't even allowed to use the front doors of some of the clubs where they were performing. This was a common trend around the United States at the time, even in New York. On one occasion, Davis and a group of his friends went to see Frank Sinatra perform at the New York club, the Copacabana. They were turned away at the door. However, Sinatra made Davis come back the next.
I just want to speak on this real quick about Frank Sinatra. There is a Facebook meme that's going out where it talked about Frank Sinatra was with Nat King Cole, or he went to go see Nat King Cole perform at this club, and he noticed that every night, whenever they have dinner, Nat King Cole would disappear. Well, that's because Nat King Cole wasn't allowed to eat in the dining room where the whites were. So Frank asked one of the bus boys, how come he's eating alone? And when he explained it to him, he said, okay. The next night he came, he demanded for Nat King Cole to come into the dining room and eat with him. And he said, if he doesn't, he said, I'll have you fired. And so that was one way of the barrier being broken down during those days, is that there were white people who cared and who were hurt by what was going on, and those who had power did make a difference. And Frank Sinatra was one of those. He made a difference in a lot of performers, especially female black artists. you know, he helped open a lot of doors for them. Let's get back to the story.
Night, and he walked into the club by himself, effectively breaking down a sort of barrier. Through all of this racism, Sammy Davis Jr. never stopped fighting back with talent. This hard work would finally pay off when Davis got his big break. In 1951, the Will Maston Trio was asked to open at the famous Hollywood nightclub Ciro's. The trio was meant to perform for 20 minutes to open for Janice Page. However, the crowd loved the trio so much, Sammy Davis Jr. especially, that they continued to perform for almost an hour. After this, Janice Page insisted that the order of the show be flipped to her opening for the trio. Following this, Sammy Davis Jr. was...
You check that out? They were first hired to perform for Janet, you know, and she said, wait a minute, these guys are so good, you know, I want to open up for them, you know, give them top billing, because that's who the people were coming to see, was Sammy and the trio. So that's very classy of her to want to do that. So kudos to her.
On the rise. He could not be stopped. He was an absolute force to be reckoned with. This man's skills could never be overstated. He could dance like no one else. He could sing just as well as Frank Sinatra. His impressions were uncanny. He was an absolute powerhouse. However, his incredible rise would come with a pretty terrible fall. Davis was driving from Las Vegas to Los Angeles in 1954 when he was almost K in a car crash. The year prior, Davis had befriended a Jewish comedian named Eddie Cantor. Cantor had given Davis a mezuzah, which is a parchment enclosed in a case that is normally fixed to a doorpost. However, Davis had taken to wearing it around his neck for good luck. This car crash happened on the only night that Davis had not been wearing his necklace. During the crash, Davis's eye was damaged because of a bullet-shaped horn button, which led to him losing his left eye completely. He survived.
Now, that bullet that was in the horn, it was in a steering wheel of a Cadillac, because that was one of the features of the attractions of the vehicle. Well, ever since that accident, they discontinued that bullet-style steering wheel because of what it done to Sammy.
The crash, but the loss of his eye meant that he would have to relearn his movements. Obviously, his depth perception was greatly affected by this, and this type of injury can destroy an entertainer's career, especially in this time period. However, instead of letting him sulk due to his injuries, Davis's friends, including Frank Sinatra, pushed him out of bed and towards recovery as soon as possible. He soon regained his footing, just in time for this car crash to make him into a national celebrity. At this point, Sammy Davis Jr. was still making waves. He was writing songs and acting in different television shows and films, all while performing constantly. With all of this hard work came notoriety, but this would also soon turn against him. In 1957, Davis began dating Kim Novak, a white actress. Supposedly, Davis was incredibly in love with Novak, and Novak apparently shared the same feelings. It was really the first moment in Sammy Davis Jr.'s life where he loved someone enough to want to marry them, and this rumor started to spread. However, as with almost every aspect of Davis's life, white people were not happy about this. One particular white racist that didn't like the idea of Davis marrying Novak was her boss, Harry Cohn. Harry Cohn was the head of Kim Novak's film studio, Columbia Pictures. He believed that Novak's marriage to a black man, even an incredibly famous and beloved black man, would affect the studio's profits. So, he did what any sane white man would do. He hired the mob to threaten Sammy Davis Jr. reportedly. The mobsters threatened Davis with blinding his remaining eye and breaking his legs if he didn't marry a black woman within 48 hours. This scare tactic actually worked and completely destroyed Sammy Davis Jr. because he took the threats very seriously. Davis's assistant, Arthur...
Y'all white people are a mess.
Silver found him in their suite at the Sands Hotel, frantically flipping through his address book. Silver asked him what he was doing. He responded, "I got the call this morning. I have to marry a black lady, and I'm looking for someone to marry." Eventually, he found someone, a local dancer named Lorraine White. He immediately called her and made a truly scandalous proposition. Davis invited White to come to his suite, and when she arrived, he dropped his bombshell. He would pay her to marry him, then dissolve the marriage after a year. He hoped that a year might be long enough to get the mob off his back. White agreed, and they were off to the races. Davis was miserable, but there was nothing else he could do. And to make matters worse, worse, people couldn't have been happier for him. The first person to call Davis to congratulate him on his upcoming nuptials was Evelyn Cunningham, one of the leading voices in the black press. It hadn't just been white people who were against his relationship with Kim Novak. Cunningham had frequently written about his obligation to the black community, and she was overjoyed that Davis had finally found a black woman to share his life with. If she'd known the dark truth, she probably would have sung a different tune. Sammy Davis Jr.'s first wedding wasn't exactly romantic. The location was pretty nice in the Sands Emerald Room, but the bride was 40 minutes late to a ceremony that lasted all of 2 minutes. Then it was done. Davis and White were man and wife. Neither was particularly happy, but White at least made sure she got hers. As soon as she became Mrs. Sammy Davis Jr., Lorraine White went nuts on a shopping spree. Jet Magazine ran a photo of her with 20 new pairs of shoes. Davis showered her with even more gifts to show his gratitude for getting him out of a sticky situation. White even got to stay in the Sands presidential suite, but when she returned to the room, she returned alone. Meanwhile, Davis only got more and more miserable. Luckily, his marriage to White was short-lived, and they were divorced in 1950.
That's because he was creeping with Kim.
This was a particularly low moment in Davis's life, but it would soon pick back up that same year. This was the year that he got his second big break when Frank Sinatra asked him to become a member of the famous Rat Pack. Sammy Davis Jr.'s time in the Rat Pack was one of the most famous of his career. Many may remember him as an actor or singer in the Will Maston Trio, but the Rat Pack is what everyone associates with Davis's career. However, there's a particular moment from his time in the Rat Pack that really affected Davis greatly. This was in relation to President...
Okay, before we go into the relationship with Kennedy, which is really eye-opening and mouth-dropping of what actually happened. But I would be remiss if I don't show you Frank Sinatra, Sammy performing with the Rat Pack.
I gotta catch a train sooner, yeah. About. I gotta go to a bar mitzvah in a minute. They heard the breeze through the trees, singing weird melodies, and they named that the start of the blues. And from a jail came a wail. From a down-hearted frail,
Frank?
and they call that the start of the blues. From a whippoorwill high on a hill. How about that?
Boy, that's Johnny Carson.
Till it was born, I'll call you if I need you. Till it was blue, no, get off the plane. And then they nursed it, and they rehearsed it. How does it feel to sit in the back of the bus? That the Southland really let's give Dean a chance. Shut up.
Dean. Show me which way the audience is.
We all thank you, but we had all the fun. Gee, what a wonderful night this has been.
Oh, that was Johnny Carson.
And as Frank has already said, how much fun it is to perform in front of people who are having a good time.
Okay, that was them, Sammy and the Rat Pack. So let's get back to a little bit more of the bean footage, as I like to refer to it as. And let's see if I can find, cue it up.
A Jewish entertainer in the world.
Not Sammy Davis Jr. Oh, that's the black guy that turned Jewish.
Studio, Columbia Pictures. He believed that Novak's marriage to a black played him on his upcoming nuptials was Evelyn Cunningham, one of the leading voices in the black press. It hadn't just been white people who same year. This was the year that he got his second big break when Frank Sinatra asked him to become a member of the famous Rat Pack. Sammy Davis Jr.'s time in the Rat Pack was one of the most famous of his career. Many may remember him as an actor or singer in the Will Maston Trio, but the Rat Pack is what everyone associates with Davis's career. However, there's a particular moment from his time in the Rat Pack that really affected Davis greatly. This was in relation to President John F. Kennedy. Davis campaigned for John F. Kennedy during his 1960 presidential campaign, performing in 20 cities, usually alongside the rest of the Rat Pack. But at the Democratic National Convention in Mississippi, he was booed while singing the national anthem, an incident that left him near tears. After he won the election, Kennedy snubbed Davis on 2 occasions.
Do you know how that must have hurt him, singing the national anthem? You know, after what he's gone through, being a black in the first platoon in the military, you know, the stuff he's gone through, the racism, the prejudice, and all that stuff, and get to rise to the top of your profession, to be on the same stage, being invited by the president, or soon to be president of the United States, John F. Kennedy, singing the national anthem and then get booed. Yeah, baby, Paul, that's gotta hurt.
Davis had been invited to Kennedy's inauguration gala and was so proud to be going that he had a special suit made. Britt bought a Balenciaga dress, but 3 days before the inauguration, Kennedy's secretary called to say that the president was uninviting them. The move was political. The president-elect had won the election by a slim margin, and he didn't want to alienate Southern congressmen by presenting them with Davis's controversial marriage. Davis was deeply hurt and embarrassed by the snub. Then in 1963, Davis and Britt were invited to a White House reception for African-American leaders. Raymond said in an email that when Kennedy saw them there, he hissed at his aides to get them out of here and hurried the couple away from photographers. Davis wasn't the first celebrity in an interracial marriage. Singer Harry Belafonte married a white woman in 1957, and in 1912, boxer Joe Jackson was jailed for dating a white woman. But no other prominent interracial marriage received as much publicity as Davis and Britt. I was a little kid when it happened, said Gerald Early, editor of the Sammy Davis Reader. Everybody talked about it. I do think it had an impact. It was one of those things in the 60s that was part of opening up American society a little bit. He and Mae Britt were pioneers in making America more accepting of interracial marriage. In 1967, the Supreme Court ruled in Loving v. Virginia that it was unconstitutional to ban interracial marriage. The culture shifted quickly alongside the legal changes that followed, and successful movies featuring interracial romance like Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Davis himself had also taken on interracial relationships in the 1964 Broadway musical Golden Boy, where he played a black boxer in love with a white woman. Davis and Britt divorced in 1968. The marriage lasted 8 years and resulted in 3 children. According to Davis's biographer Gary Fishgall, Davis and Novak met again at a ball after the 1979 Oscars. They danced together. Afterwards, Davis was amazed. No one had taken a picture of the two of them. No one even cared. Once, when Britt and Davis were first married, Boyer and his wife were sharing a hotel suite with them in Miami. Martin Luther King Jr. came to visit Davis in the hotel, and Boyer said, "Martin, where are we racially?" Davis interjected and said, "I'll tell you where I am. I'm in the best suite in this hotel, but I can't walk down the street with my wife." King replied with the words of a slave preacher, who he would later quote in a speech to the New York Civil War Centennial Commission in 1962. He said, "We ain't what we ought to be." We ain't what we want to be. We ain't what we gonna be. But thank God, we ain't what we was. Anyway, it was sometime after his shunning by JFK that Davis began to enter his partying stage. When I say partying, I mean truly hardcore, rock and roll partying. He was said to have begun participating in huge orgies while drinking heavily and experimenting with nose candy. But these weren't the only things Davis was beginning to dabble in. At this point, he was also getting his introduction into the occult. The Church of Satan was founded in California.
Now I'm gonna pause this right here and put in my little story where with Sammy. I was the personal photographer for Bonnie Hilton Sweeney, who was the founder of the pre-Grammy party, and Janae Dubois from Good Times was also part of that event, along with Calamita Pittman and Sally Rogers. And we were hanging out over at Bonnie's house. And Bonnie had got up and said, this is from that moment. This is Janae Dubois. You might recognize her from Good Times. That's Bonnie, Calamita Pittman, and Sally Rogers. And Bonnie has said, let's go to Sammy Davis Jr.'s house. And I was like, what? Really? Whoa! I was in hog heaven with the likelihood of going to meet my idol, going to his house, hanging out with Sammy. But Janae said, no, I don't want to go to his house. He's crazy, you know? I get mostly because he had entered into his wild partying phase around that time. But let's go on with that. Boy, but every time I saw Janae after that, I said, Janae, I'm still mad at you that we didn't go to Sammy's house. She always laughed.
In 1966, and apparently Sammy Davis Jr. felt a great affinity towards the church, although he had already converted to Judaism. This is likely to have been introduced to him through the orgies and substances circles he was in, because everyone knows that the Church of Satan sure loves a good orgy and a bit of nose candy. One particularly interesting moment in his Church of Satan days involved Davis being invited to a satanic party by a few friends. When he arrived, he found everyone there in robes, woman tied spread eagle on an altar. However, Davis later wrote, that chick was happy and wasn't really going to get anything sharper than a dildo stuck in her. But another member at the party wouldn't be as lucky. In the midst of the evening's wild escapades, Davis was casually indulging in some recreational substances while receiving a bit of special attention. Suddenly, one of the secretive leaders decided to add a dramatic twist to the scene by lifting his hood, revealing none other than Sammy Davis Jr.'s personal hairstylist, Jay Sebring. Now, for the true crime enthusiasts watching, the name Jay Sebring might ring a...
Now let me, Sammy was enjoying himself, getting a little personal attention, you know what I'm saying, probably, you know, and then this guy comes by, and you hear the rest of the story, but that's my envision of it, of him, you know, doing a little nose candy, and getting a headshot.
And if that doesn't strike a chord, how about the mention of his fiancée, the infamous Sharon Tate? Yes, the very same Sharon Tate who later fell victim to the gruesome Manson family massacre. It turns out that Jay Sebring wasn't just a celebrity hairstylist. He was tragically destined to share a horrifying fate with Sharon Tate, bound together and subjected to a brutal attack involving gunfire and multiple stabbings. Talk about a twist in the tale. Anyway, Sammy Davis Jr. kept some of his ties to the Church of Satan, sometimes going out in public with one of his fingernails painted to show allegiance. He would also welcome many of the Church of Satan guests at his shows, sometimes leaving front row seats available for them. At one point, the Church of Satan actually gave him an honorary second-degree Church of Satan membership, which made Sammy Davis Jr. an honorary warlock of the Church of Satan. JFK's previously mentioned betrayal may have been what eventually pushed Sammy Davis Jr. to support Republican Richard Nixon during his presidential campaign and during his presidency. This support for Nixon, who was not seen as a supporter of the civil rights movement, was seen as a disgrace to the black community. They saw Davis as a sellout and more of a joke than an incredible entertainer. This began a true downfall for Davis in the face of the public. His substance and alcohol AB had steadily grown up to this point, and he was truly pressing his luck. At one point, he opened a show with a single song and stopped the show afterwards, which was not like Sammy Davis Jr. at all. He did eventually quit using nose candy, but the drinking was another story. He drank so much alcohol that he ended up being diagnosed with a diseased liver. After this, he was told by doctors that he would die if he took another drink. Luckily for the entertainment world, he did as he was told and stopped his drinking completely, although he still smoked. It was following this unfortunate diagnosis that he began working hard to better himself in many ways. He actually apparently became a great cook, such a great cook that even Bill Cosby himself spoke about his cooking prowess. Davis also built his career back up from the brink of destruction with a few amazing acting roles in films and plays and a hit single with Candyman. He was also dating his soon-to-be third wife, Alta Vice Gore. The two were married in 1970, and Sammy Davis Jr. seemed to be really on the mend from his wild years. By the 1980s, he was seen as a legend. People had forgotten his friendship with Nixon, and he was revered for the work he had done in the arts. He even starred in an incredible 80s film, Tap, where he played an aging tap dancer who could tap dance better than anyone in the film. It's an incredibly impressive film to watch. If you were to call this period in his life anything, you would really call this a comeback for Sammy Davis Jr. But then came...
Okay, and I'm gonna stop right there. And I'm gonna put this little footage in here of Sammy's last performance of him tap dancing. And it is with Gregory Hine, who was also one of the stars of that show, of that movie called Taps. Okay, here we go. That's Gregory Hines. This was the 6th anniversary of Sammy Davis in show business. They had a celebration for him. There was one scene there, Michael singing to him, which was very touching, but I thought maybe a lot of you probably would have seen that already. Now, Gregory Hines also had a brother that also tap danced too and was active. And Gregory Hines also did a song with Luther Vandross that was #1.
Very cute. Nice and light. A little faster.
that was Sammy's last public performance. Okay, and let's get back. And we're almost at the end of the beam footage, as I like to call it. And I still got a couple more songs I'm gonna play for you. But
If you were to call this period in his life anything, you would really call this a comeback for Sammy Davis Jr. But then came the tickle. In August 1989, Davis began complaining of a tickle in his throat and an inability to taste food. Doctors found a cancerous tumor in his throat, and he was diagnosed with throat cancer. He was told that he had the best chance of survival if they removed a portion of his throat instead of using chemotherapy. However, Sammy Davis Jr. told the doctors that he'd rather die than lose his voice.
no,
So he
don't
began to undergo chemotherapy and radiation. This leads us to another very unfortunate moment in Sammy Davis Jr.'s story. While he was undergoing treatment for his cancer, there was also an event being planned for Davis to celebrate his 60 years in show business. This would be a large variety show of many different performers paying tribute to Sammy Davis Jr. This was also meant to include a performance from Davis, but he was too ill due to his treatment to perform. However, towards the end of the show, the feelings overwhelmed him, and he decided to put on his tap shoes right there in the audience. The audience cheered while he took the stage with fellow tap dancers.
that's what you just saw.
Gregory Hines. He proceeded to deliver one of the most incredible tap dances you could hope to see, making it look effortless compared to the younger Gregory Hines. It was an incredible performance, and it was also Sammy Davis Jr.'s final performance. On May 16, 1990, Sammy Davis Jr. passed away in his home in Beverly Hills, California at the age of 64. 2 days following his death, the neon lights of the Las Vegas Strip were darkened for 10 minutes as a tribute. However, this is not the final unfortunate portion of this story. In the aftermath of his passing, Davis left behind an estate estimated at $4 million, bequeathed predominantly to his widow, Altavice Davis. However, financial shadows loomed large, as Davis carried a substantial debt of $5,200,000 to the IRS. With interest and penalties inflating the amount to over $7 million, Altavice found herself shouldering the burden of his fiscal obligations due to her co-signature on his tax returns. Forced to liquidate his personal possessions and real estate, Altavice received support from industry peers like Quincy Jones, Joey Bishop, Ed Asner, Jane Meadows, and Steve Allen, who rallied together in a fundraising concert at the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas. The posthumous echoes of Davis's financial struggles painted a bittersweet epilogue to the life of a legendary performer. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.
Just on a footnote, I ain't one to gossip, but you didn't hear it from me, that Sammy didn't get any money from that fundraiser, that benefit. Frank, who was over it, got most of it, if not all of it. But like I said, I ain't one to gossip. You didn't hear it from me. Okay, I'm gonna play maybe one or two more songs of my favorite Sammy Davis Jr. Songs. Oh no, come on. Let me cut this one up. Okay. There's just so many songs that I have marked here to play for you. I'll tell you what, let's go with this one first, and then I'll finish up with one more. This one is called...
I gotta catch a train soon, are you?
No, that's not it. This one's called... yeah, let's do this one.
I'd like to close the show tonight with a song that means an awful lot to me, and it means a lot to my people. That was written many, many years ago. I can think of no better testimony than right now for what it has to say in terms of man's inhumanity to man, and the hope that one day we will all respect each other for the dignity of man. Here we all work along the Mississippi. Here we all work
while the rich folks will play,
pulling their ropes from the dawn till sunset, and getting no rest till our judgment day. You
Lift
don't
up.
look up and you don't look down. You don't dare make the white boss frown. So you bend your knee, you bow your head, and you pull them ropes until you're dead. There's an old man called the Mississippi. That's the old man that I longs to be. What does he care if his folks ain't happy? And what does he care if the land ain't free? Old man river, that old man river, he don't say nothing, but he must know something. He just keeps rolling. He keeps on rolling along. See, don't plant potatoes. Don't plant. Nobody's cutting. And them that plants them is soon forgotten. And old man river, he just keep rolling along. But you and me, we sweat, we strain, bodies all aching, and rack with pain. Hey, you boy, lift that barge, you over there, tote that bed. And if you get a little drunk,
And you end in
then
jail.
you land in jail. Well, I gets weary, and I'm sick of trying. I was tired of living. But I ain't afraid of dying. But he just keeps rolling.
Sing that song, boy. Sing. Woo. Speak their names, speak their names, speak their names. Sammy Davis Jr., Mr. Entertainment. Okay. I'll tell you what, I'll put this in there because this is a little fun fact about him. I don't know how many know that he's known as one of the fastest drawers, gun handlers in Hollywood.
In Laredo, one day, as I walked out in the streets of Laredo, as I walked out in Laredo, one day, I spied a young cowboy wrapped up in white rain. Shucks, I wouldn't put it on unless I was good at it.
action. Single action means, like, unless you have the modern revolver, they can fire this way by just pressing the trigger. With the old-fashioned Western gun, you have to cock the gun first and then fire. So that, in essence, when you go for the fast draw, the gun is actually cocked while it's in the holster, like so. See, it's cocked here. You pull out and then fire. Of course, you must be careful that when you do this, you don't do that. But you'll find out immediately why Chester walks with a limp.
Okay.
Can't get over it, huh? You know something, baby? You look like me.
Oh, you might as well watch this now.
James, I can't get over it, huh? You know something, baby? You look like me. James, I just must tell you that this biggest thrill. Thank you for.
That's the Godfather Soul, Mr. James Brown.
To be on the show with such a dynamic performer and so many beautiful, nice people. You are beautiful, nice people.
It's all right. You know that.
All right.
Hey, bro, let me ask you something. I don't want to be pushing nothing like that, but can we?
You want to get in my show?
Well, I gotta give it my.
You want to do a thing together?
Yeah.
First, you have to do your own thing, okay?
Yeah.
Leave my thing alone.
Oh, I ain't gonna do yours.
You'll do your thing.
I couldn't do it if I wanted to. But I mean. Take it down, Sammy. Don't worry about it later. Now take a dance like you do. They call them at Taylor.
Woo, the mashed potatoes, baby.
Wait a minute, brother. You got an old soulful dance they call the camel walk. Yeah. You remember the camel walk? I know the camel walk. Yeah, brother. Yeah. Can you do the camel walk right here? I can try. You don't mind it? I don't mind. You don't mind it? I'll try to get it on. Camel walk, make it good. Wait a minute. Look here. Sometimes I dance, singing, and sometimes I clown. But you can bet you haven't seen nothing yet until you see
The James Brown.
with your bad self.
Woo. Okay. Now, thanks for watching. I got one more song to play for you to go out on. And Mr. Davis, I know you're already in that group shot in the sky because I at Thug Mansion, waiting for me to take and let them all know that it won't be too much longer now, but let them all know I always love them more. Okay, so this is the classic. There were other songs I wanted to play. What kind of fool am I? You know, New York, but I'll end it with this. So remember, dreams are nothing more than plans awaiting action. Never disrespect the elder, always pull someone up. And sometimes you're the only one to see a vision. And the best revenge in life is to live good. And I hope you're living good because I am. And if you're lucky enough to have a woman like Ollie Woodson, formerly singing the Temptation One song, treat her like a lady. And ladies, if you're lucky enough to have a good man like me, make him feel like a king and never say no. Okay? Here we go. This is the classic. Mr. Bojangles.
I knew a man, Bojangles, and he danced for you. In war said his name was Bojangles. Then he danced a lick. Right across the cell, he grabbed his pants, took a better stance, jumped up high. That's when he clicked his heels. Then he let go a laugh. Lord, he let go a laugh. Shook back his clothes all around. That was Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Bojangles. Lord, he could dance. Told me about the times he'd spent with minstrel shows, traveling throughout the South. He spoke with tears of 15 years, how his dog and he, they just traveled about. But his dog up and died. Dog up and died. And after 20 years, he still grieved. Said I dance now at every chance in honky-tonks. For my drinks and tips, most of the time I spend behind these county bars. You see, son, I drinks a bit. Then he shook his head. Lord, when he shook his head, I could swear I heard someone say, please. Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Bojangles, come back and dance, 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 please dance.
Mr. Bojangles.
Mr. Bojangles, dance.
Sammy Davis Jr.
Why can't you come back and dance?
You done well, my brother. You done very well.
And dance.
Now strike that iconic pose. Okay. Again, thanks for watching Gerard Sunday Morning Classic. As time goes by, so does music. I'll check you out next week. Okay? Peace.